everyone, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Monica, and in today's video we will continue swatching the items from the big art supply haul. Last time we checked out Caran d'Ache luminance colored pencils and also Neocolor 1 wax pastels. My approach to swatching is very laid back, and I hope you don't mind. Anyway, let's dive in, sit back and enjoy. Now for the Schmincke Aqua Drops, I'll be using Arch's Coldpressed paper. This is just a leftover piece. I think I'm actually gonna start with yellow, magenta, and cyan first. Alright, 1 drop of each. Let's start with it in its concentrated form. I'm gonna start with yellow here. And it looks very, very thick, I must say. Okay, this is really intense. Let me grab a water brush. Some water here. First thing I noticed right away, it goes a really long way. It's super highly concentrated. Now let's see if I can lift it. Oh, okay, so my brush was actually contaminated. Oops. Doesn't matter. Let's just add some more. So impressed, you guys. So next is gonna be magenta. Oh my god. This is so vibrant. Again, same thing here. We can drag this. Let's try to lift it. Yeah. So you can still lift it. That's nice. Let's mix these two together. So we got magenta and yellow, and then you get this peachy red. The color is really coherent. If you're into that, you might actually love those. You got some blooming here, but no granulation as far as I can tell. Let's actually make this more concentrated. So 1 drop of yellow and 1 drop of magenta equals this color. It's a very bright red, like a scarlet sort of red. The drops actually don't feel super watery, they feel super thick. I think that's actually a good thing because it doesn't water down the paint too much if you use a wet brush. Now next is gonna be cyan. Wow. I really do hope the camera does pick it up, how radiant and vibrant that is. Let's just dab some yellow here onto this cyan pool just to check what the green would look like. It's like a neon green color almost. Let's take some of the red, mix it in to make it a little dirtier. There's not much pigment left. Let's make purple. Okay. So 1 drop of cyan equals some sort of ultramarine blue. And now if you want it to be more on the purple side, you just need a little more of the magenta. Like so. Now this here actually does look like it might granulate. Let's see how it dries. Let's continue with the browns, burnt umber, and burnt sienna. And let me actually dab it onto the paper. I just want to see if that works. So 1 dab of burnt umber here, burnt sienna over there. Ooh. Now I notice here, if you drop it straight onto the paper, what it does is there's kind of a little circle here going on that is darker. Now as it is drying, you can see it even more. It's really advised not to do that. So we will put the other drops onto the palette. This is indigo blue, got some purple and olive green. Now this one is so beautiful. Wow, the indigo is really dark. I think you can actually have a lot of fun with them. Now, like I said in my last video, I got them with the intention to create my own gouache on the go. So I got a huge bottle of Schmincke Designer's gouache, mixing white. Let's put it in the middle here and mix it in. Let's start a little lighter. Oh gosh, did I pick the contaminated brush? I think I might have. One more drop. I just want to see how dark I can go with the gouache with the mixing white. So what I'm noticing is the more of the Aqua Drops you use, the more diluted it gets. So you can use it like gouache if you are going for a little thinner consistency. Okay guys, now that it is drying, I noticed that the pigments are actually separating once you mix it with white gouache. So what you see here is the darker blue pigments separating from the green pigments here. So it doesn't dry coherently. You don't have a coherent layer of a color as soon as you add gouache to it. This sucks, but there might be a remedy for it. If you want the color to be more opaque, I got the opaque white in this set. White Lightning it's called. Let's see if that works. By the way, can you see? You have this cauliflower effect here. Anyway, one drop of white. Let's wait it out, guys. I just want to see if the pigments separate or not. Let's try to make it a little lighter even. One more drop of white. What a beautiful color, by the way. So, right here, maybe put some right here. Okay guys, everything seems dry now, and I must say, is it really necessary to get this set? I think there is a huge advantage if you want to say you want to mix a certain color, but when it comes to the actual look, I don't know guys, you tell me. Okay guys, so this is actually the next morning and I was just about to continue recording and I'm noticing that this must be the ugliest swatch card ever made. So I'm actually gonna redo this for you, make it a little nicer. I'm gonna turn this around, tape it onto the board and make a color wheel for you. I'm noticing that the opaque white acts like gouache in a way. So on the palette it looks much lighter, but it dries way darker. Okay, the black seems to be dry now and it is more of a gray color. It is not deep black in my opinion. I haven't watered it down whatsoever. My brush was a little damp, but that's just about it. So with these colors, I feel like you gotta layer them. They look really deep and intense when you put them on the paper, but when they dry, they pretty light, which is a common thing with watercolors, I guess, but usually it's not to this extent. Okay guys, let me know in the comments what you feel about liquid watercolors. Do you use them? Does anyone ever use them? I'm really curious about that. As for me, I feel like this is something I will use in my sketchbook whenever I will feel like I just need a tint of a certain primary or basic color. I will probably grab those. The purpose of them is to mix them, to make nice mixes, but I don't know if I find it that convenient in comparison to having a watercolor palette and just dab my brush into whatever pen I feel like at the moment. I'm such a lazy person, unscrewing and then dropping, doing all that. I just feel so lazy. I don't know if I will be doing this while in the process of a painting. Now what it is good for, whenever you have a formula for a certain color, you can just mix the very same color again. You just count the drops basically, write it down on a piece of paper, the formula that is, and then you don't have to worry too much about the color looking different. Anyway, let me know what you think about it. Alright guys, next is gonna be colored inks, so-called Zeichentusche, that's German, by Rohrer Klingner. And the paper I will be using is the Saunders Waterford Coldpressed. It's by St. Cuthbert's Mill. And I'm really excited to try this paper, so this is the first. First thing I notice is that it is off-white, which I really like, to be honest. And I hope you're just as excited as me. Alright, really excited for this. Let's start with yellow. In comparison to the Aqua Drops, this seems to be more of a very neutral yellow. It seems slightly warmer, so it's not a lemon yellow for sure. My first impression is I like this more than the Aqua Drops. I prefer this. I can't say what it is, but I think it is the consistency actually. It feels less thick. It feels more like using watercolors out of a pen. Alright, moving on to the next. We got orange. While it's wet, you can still lift it. So far, I'm really impressed. Now some words about the paper. It is comparable to the Canson L'Aquarelle Heritage that I showed you in my art haul. My most favorite paper ever. And I must say, it feels quite the same. I love it. I love this paper. This paper is a good option in case they discontinue the Canson Heritage. Now while I'm swatching this, maybe you guys can explain to me what you all love so much about the Arches watercolor paper. To me it seems like it's everyone's favorite and I really don't get why. It is really rough in my opinion, the cold pressed one. Feels like sandpaper. The brush doesn't glide on the paper too well. You don't get these nice clean edges on the arches, and it feels like the paint just soaks in immediately. I have a hard time lifting, I have a hard time blending, but for some reason people seem to be really infatuated. Let me know whether it is the final look that you love about the arches, or you just find it really easy and satisfying to work on it. Just explain it to me, guys. I am so curious. I'm actually feeling like a peasant. I feel like I'm not a good artist if I don't like the arches. Maybe I'm just too inexperienced with watercolors, I don't know. But I'm willing to learn. You tell me what you think about it. Alright, moving on to the next. We got cyan. lastly, we got sap green. Alright, that's all the colors. Then we got black. Let's see how dark this is. Let me actually just drop it straight onto the paper here and see how this dries. While the black ink is drying, let me quickly mix some colors here with the residue I got on the palette. So this is a mix between cyan and purple. It's watered down, granted, but I'm gonna do it anyways. And maybe mix some magenta and yellow. By the way, once it's dry, you have those dust particles. Honestly, I cannot do anything with it anymore, so I gotta make a new mix. I'm just trying to clean it with a paper towel and it just doesn't work too well, so I'll be back in a second. Alright guys, I'm back. I don't know why, but it was really difficult to get rid of the dried ink. Let me actually cheat some and use the Heikala Art SuppIy Box owner's guide. Here's the mini tutorial. Let's start with magenta and purple. Actually, this looks just like purple. Let me add some more magenta. Yeah, now it is some sort of a warmer purple. Now let's add some cyan to this, because why not? Let's just experiment, guys. Yeah, so this is a nice dark blue. In theory, if I maybe add just a tad of green to it, maybe it will become more like of a Prussian blue. Let's see. Let's just have some fun. And yeah, indeed, we got a Prussian blue. Might be more like an indigo, actually. Depending on the brand, some Prussian blues look like indigos and vice versa. It always confuses me. I want more green. I have added so many colors by now. Not surprised if it gets muddy. Ooh, this is a beautiful color. I feel like watering it down. Okay, so I've been working on it for like 5 minutes maybe, and again, you have all that dust, all those dried out particles. So I don't know how to prevent that, guys. At this point, I added so much water to it, but it seems to dry super quickly. Not a fan of that. Okay, moving on, cyan and green. Oh, okay, so this is like a viridian. Gosh, it looks so intense. I really love this paper. This is an awesome paper, guys. I haven't checked how expensive that paper is. I will probably be shocked. Now let's mix yellow and sap green. What a beautiful green. Look how bright this is. Guys, so far I'm super impressed. I think you can really mix any possible color with this set. Next is orange and magenta. Oh my gosh. This is really bright red right here. Once I'm done here, I'm gonna show you a comparison in a bit. We will compare it to the Schmincke Aqua Drops. Now I know that this is ink and the other was liquid watercolor, but still, my impression is those look nicer. Now this is an orange that is more on the yellowish side. And now let's check how much I can drag this with just a drop of one color each. I don't know how about you, but I find swatching to be really relaxing, and it's one of the things I do whenever I feel like I'm having an art block. Once I start swatching, I suddenly get the urge to go and create something. It's amazing. Now finally, let's mix a brown color. So for brown, we will need orange and sap green. Let's see. No, this doesn't look like a brown at all. It looks more like olive. Yeah, it's more like an olive brown. Let's see if I can get it right. Let me check actually. So yeah, orange it says plus sap green, which is exactly what I did. I don't know guys, but this looks muddy. Well, actually, it doesn't look too bad now. So you will need more of the orange and less of the sap green. What if I add some magenta to it actually? Let's just experiment. Actually, kinda like it. Alright guys, so let's compare it real quick to the Schmincke Aqua Drops. Actually, now that I'm looking at it and comparing, the Schmincke Aqua Drops ain't too bad. However, I feel like the mixes look nicer with the inks. At the end of the day, it's two different mediums. If you like the permanent nature of these inks, then you would go for the inks, obviously. Me personally, I see myself using this ink more often, way more often. Reason for that is you can take advantage of its permanent nature, but also it just flows on the paper more nicely in my opinion. It mixes better. Granted, it dries pretty quickly and then you have like those dried particles. However, the consistency feels more like a traditional watercolor to me. Ironically, because this is ink and this is watercolor. Now when it comes to the black, Rohrer Klingner is definitely the winner. I didn't water down the black here whatsoever, but it is a gray. Now before we move on to my watercolors, let's actually check what happens if I add water to it. Can I lift it? Okay. This is impressive. I cannot lift it whatsoever. So you can glaze for real. Super impressed. This is a winner. 10 out of 10, highly recommend. Okay, so this swatching session turned into a review. I hope you don't mind. I usually work in gouache, so I hope I did a fairly good job considering how I haven't worked in watercolors for what feels like ages. This was my first time trying inks and I think I kind of like it. So if you can recommend any inks from another brand, feel free to do so in the comment section. I really appreciate that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching and have a fantastic day. Until next time.